Well, what do we have for you this Thursday morning? Bunch of stuff. Saints trade for a defensive lineman and claim a running back return specialist off the waiver wire. But they're remaining status quo with their offensive line thus far. A trio of key players return to the Saints as the team shortens its injured list. And it's the first real weekend of college football. Can the LSU Tigers shake their opening season blues in Las Vegas versus USC? And Tulane figure out who their starting quarterback is. Will they figure that out tonight against Southeastern? Probably not, but we'll talk about it. Which game is the one to watch on Saturday? And of course, we have a couple of value plays. Well, probably more than a couple. Let's not waste any more time. This is the birthday edition of the Dattitude podcast, and it's coming up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to all my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who are trying to figure out how many candles to put on my birthday cake. Doesn't matter. No worries. Even with all my hot air, I can't blow them all out anyway. Just too many. Let's save some of the icing for Dattitude. Episode number 271, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Thursday, August the 29th, 2024. I am indeed the birthday boy, or old man, birthday old man, whatever it is. Jim Derry. Gabe Henderson's is coming up in a couple of days. Let's celebrate its birthday week here at Dattitude. Whether you are watching on oneofanola.com, social media channels, or listening on demand to the podcast after the fact, as always, we thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. All right, program and note first of all. This starts our football schedule today. We didn't have a show yesterday because I have been in preparations for what's coming forward. We got to get all these fancy slides ready, doing some programming. Let's see. How does the right way to put it? Putting it all together is the way I'm going to put it. So that's what I was doing the last 2 days. Been putting everything together. It is a busy week, is busy time. So going forward, if it's not a holiday or a weird Saints schedule, we're going to be here live every weekday morning at 11 a.m. except Tuesdays. We won't be on Tuesdays, but other than that, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, live at 11 a.m. Obviously, if you listen to the audio version, which a lot of you still do, we thank you. They'll be on later in the afternoon. Usually they're up by 1 o'clock at the latest on the audio version. So there you go. That's our schedule. Now, of course, I say that, and then this Monday we won't have a show. It's Labor Day, so we will not have a show on Monday. Not really a reason to. We'll probably talk a little LSU when we come back on Wednesday after tomorrow's show. By the way, tomorrow we are getting close to wrapping up our NFL previews. Tomorrow, part 7 with Larry Holder as we go NFL division by division. The last one, that's not the NFC South. It is the NFC North tomorrow. Who's going to win it? Green Bay? Lions? Could it be the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams? What about the? Nah, it won't be the. I'll go. Spoiler alert: I'm not picking the Minnesota Vikings to win the NFC North. They are in an interesting spot for sure, and not just because they lost their quarterback, just an interesting spot. We'll talk about all that tomorrow with Larry. You can be a part of this show as always by typing in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. A lot of you have been shouting out to me on X. Most of it good. Some of you not nice. Not nice. Again, I'm going to say what I said the other day. It's so funny when people disagree, especially if it's something like, I don't know why the QB2 position is so controversial, but it is. It is. It's so funny. I mean, people just get in an uproar. It's an uproar. Sometimes they get. Gabe says he's going to be 29. Me too. Me too, Gabe. Okay, 39. How about that? No. My wife keeps telling everybody she's 29. She got struck by the leprechaun, the magical leprechaun who made her 29 forever. Well, since we have a 26-year-old son and that's physically impossible, but whatever. You keep floating that leprechaun boat, whatever. You can be a part of the show. Just type in your comment. We will show it on the air as we always do. Let's have a back and forth because the first half of the show is going to be a lot of back and forth. We're going to talk. Normally Thursdays are going to be a pick show. Today is actually not. We've decided to postpone our first official pick show. Uncle Big Nick is going to come on next Thursday. Tom Casale is going to come on a little bit later. Bet.noah.com editor. We're going to talk about the first weekend of college football. He'll give me his thoughts on LSU. I will as well. Tulane tonight. And we'll have a couple picks, but this is not our first official pick show. But that's what Thursdays will be going forward for the most part. So talk to us as always. If you have not done so already, make sure you go to our ever-growing YouTube page. It's growing fast. So is TikTok. I mean, I was about to get ready to give up on TikTok, but it has been growing like wildfire lately. Apparently you like our shorts better than you like the shows because you've been watching the hell out of the shorts. Those have been doing really well. And so you'll have access to all those shorts and all of our shows on YouTube, then all of our shorts as well on TikTok. You can get in touch with me, of course, on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. You guys are quiet this morning. No comments yet? I know you're not used to me coming on Thursday, but say something. I want to talk to you. I've got it. Well, a lot of people have been talking to me this morning. Got lots of texts and calls. Went to my normal bagel place. My wife apparently had been in there before me and gave them the heads up that today was birthday. You know, the best thing about this birthday so far is that there are no hurricanes. You know how many hurricanes there have been on my birthday? Today is the 9th, and not just because of the 19th anniversary of Katrina. So I remember that one very well. Spent that one in a hotel and room in Birmingham. Took 20 hours to get there. Let's just say I don't remember the evening part of it that much. There was nothing else to do but try to forget. So, but I thank all the texts and the calls from everyone out there. Good morning, Dylan. There you go. Who dat? Absolutely. Eric Kurtz is worried about the O-line. Who will start at right tackle and left guard? Thank you for the happy birthday. That is the question of I don't even know. I want to say the day, the week, question of the year, right? So far, and there's unquestionably that is the concern. And we're going to get to Saints in a little bit, as you see on the show today. Lattimore, Shaheed back. Also, Kool-Aid is back. So the Saints is shortening their injury list. That's good news. Team makes a trade, and they made a waiver claim. John Ridgeway, interior defensive lineman. Saints traded a 6th-round pick and get Ridgeway and a 7th-round pick in return. I mean, depth. They did it for depth. Obviously, Colin Saunders isn't ready. Kendall Vickers was moved to the practice squad. I mean, I was listening to one podcast this morning. Again, I'm not mentioning any names when I mention these because they might take offense on the way that I present this. But talking about how this is a big deal. It's a great signing. This is a great trade. It's okay. I mean, if it was such a great trade, he wouldn't have been able to been got for a 6th-round pick, and then you also get a 7th-round pick in return and the player. I mean, doesn't sound like they were that worried about keeping him. Again, we'll get to that. I'm not gonna. And then the claim that they made, they picked up from the Minnesota Vikings, Kene Wanwu. I'm gonna probably mess up that name before today is over. But Wanwu is a speedster. I saw a couple of his highlights, and I know he's been in the NFL for a little while. I didn't realize this will be his 4th season in the NFL. But he is basically special teams guy. So good, bad. I mean, one of the reasons why I think the Vikings were willing to give up on him or let him go is because he is simply a special teams guy. He does not, I mean, he's listed as a running back, but he's only, we'll get to him in a minute, but I think he's only rushed, I want to say 60 something times. In fact, I have it here. Hang on. He has rushed 68 times. No, 27 times. 27 times, 27 carries for 88 yards and just 6 receptions. He has 68 career returns, but I think one of the things that the Vikings are worried about with his speed is he has trouble hitting holes. I mean, so if you're a speedster and you can't hit the hole, and with these new kickoff rules, now he will probably come in, I'm guessing right away, return kicks for the Saints. I don't think they picked him up just to sit there in the roster and take up a spot. So I would bet that he's going to come in and return for the Saints immediately. But again, like Eric just asked me, we trade, I got to stop saying we. Saints trade for a defensive lineman and they pick up a running back. But they still, again, you still got over a week to do something, but you have yet to address the most glaring, obvious, no-brainer need. How far are you going to go? Are you going to go further than this? I don't know. We'll see. We're going to get to all that again. We're going to talk a lot about the Saints this morning before we get to college football and picks. Obviously, not going to make any NFL picks today. Tomorrow we might. When we talk about the NFC North, I might give you a couple of futures picks that I like. I go on, went and recorded a segment for 4th Down on 4 with Doug Mouton on WWL this weekend. I make some picks there. Don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but you can catch me on that show on Sunday night after the 10 o'clock news as they preview Saints and we get into my thoughts on. So I'll give you my early predict. If you don't want a spoiler alert for next Wednesday's when we do the NFC South, then don't watch it because I kind of give you a spoiler alert on what I think throughout the entire division, really. That's coming up on Sunday night. Next Wednesday will be the NFC South. And then the next Friday, a week from Friday, Larry and I will wrap up our previews. We won't be doing any more previews. It'll be all real football after that. But next Friday, a week from tomorrow, we'll be giving you our predictions for postseason and who will win the Super Bowl. You want to go put some futures on that. All right. Before we get to Thursday with Gabe, let me continue the story about our friends at Evangeline Securities. The preseason's over. No doubt about it. We know it's over. Don't even think about it anymore. But Evangeline is already in playoff mode, and they don't stop until they get to your own personal Super Bowl. We like trophies. I'll take a trophy. Would you rather be set up for the future? Yeah, of course you would. Well, no one in this area can do that for you better than Evangeline Securities. They are the ones to call if you've been pondering whether it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. First and foremost, they can and will figure out what your business is worth. Founding and managing partners Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt will schedule a complimentary valuation. Then y'all can go from there. You already know Nick and Ron both grew up in New Orleans. Both graduated from Jesuit High School. Both went to highfalutin business schools that I can't pronounce the name of. We don't talk about those places on the West Bank. We're lucky if they let us in Delgado. Sometimes they do. After a decade or so in New York City, they came home to the people they love, the people who need them. They have offices on Porter Street and in Lafayette. More on this later in the show, but in the meantime, you can check them out. www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, time to get to Gabe as we talk about a couple different things. First and foremost, Gabe Henderson is Thursday with Gabe. Sometimes it's Wednesday with Gabe. Sometimes it's Monday with Gabe. What you got from me this morning?
Well, first off, just a few housekeeping things. First off, happy birthday. I forgot the big banner behind me. Can't really see that. I've been too busy. So
same to you coming up.
Appreciate it. And then another thing, you asked how many candles to put on the cake, and that's why I said 29. I'm not going to be.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm going to be 26.
Okay. Okay.
And here I was a little taken aback and insulted that you thought I was 29, but then I
didn't think you were 29. I thought you were telling me that. Well,
no, look, not too far off.
Okay, well, I'm not far off from Social Security, so there you go. What you got from me this morning?
So you probably heard about it earlier in the week. ESPN polled 103 NFL players, and they asked multiple questions. Who's the best trash talker in the league? who the most overrated quarterback is in the league. And somehow these 103 numbskulls decided that Josh Allen is the most overrated player in the
I
league.
saw that.
Which to me, when you look at some of the other names on this list, and put it this way, Josh Allen led the field with 11 picks. So out of 103 people, only 11 said that Josh Allen was. But even then, what is 103? Everyone knows the roster amount in the NFL. It's 53 man. There were cuts earlier in the week. That's not even 2 full rosters full of polling. That's a horrible sample size. But even then, so this is how.
Well, when you got sample size in politics, most of them are like 500 to 1,000 likely or registered voters. So
trust me, as someone who took analytical statistics classes and how to analyze data and all of that for advertising in college, this sample size pissed me off, to say the least.
That's players,
103 players. So Josh Allen was first.
That's close to 1/16 of the league. I don't think that's
that's still horrible. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, and Brock Purdy. Are they finished? I just have, if you give me those quarterbacks, Josh Allen is easily the best on that list. But when you're asking most overrated, if you were asking me to rank those guys in terms of most overrated, Trevor Lawrence has got to be 1. Deshaun Watson has got to be 2. And after that, they're all good quarterbacks. So
I agree with you on Trevor. I definitely agree with you on Trevor Lawrence. Deshaun Watson is an easy whipping boy, but I have a feeling about him this year. Again, nothing that he's with the Texans, he was great. So when's Trevor Lawrence ever been great? So in that sense, I would definitely put Trevor Lawrence ahead of Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. So I agree with both of those guys should be ahead of Josh Allen for sure. But you got to realize these are players who have axes to grind. There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Hold on. I knew it was coming. There you go, Big Sean. They're all better than Carr.
I can't definitively say that Trevor Lawrence is better than Carr.
A hater. Trevor Lawrence is definitely not.
Can't say definitively
better than Derek Carr.
For those wondering,
Carr over Trevor Lawrence for sure.
Trevor Lawrence, through his first 48 career starts, has comparable numbers to Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he is as I like to say, he's a bum. So
definitely not worth the contract. Now there's Deshaun Watson. Don't know if you saw the Browns restructured his deal. He is an $80 million cap hit over the next 2 seasons.
Yowza.
Some are calling him the only untradeable, uncuttable player in the league.
People like to complain and bitch about the Saints front office, and a lot of times they're warranted. However, just imagine had the Saints ended up getting Deshaun Watson and or Russell Wilson. Interesting. By the way, Mike and Brian, you both have questions here or not comments. Mike Primo, we got to win this season's opener against USC. Go Tigers. We're definitely going to talk about that. That is coming up. Brian, what should we expect from the LSU wide receiver core? Coming up, I promise you. We're going to talk about LSU coming up, but we got to Gabe's got some comments, and also we're going to talk about the Saints after Gabe goes off. Talk about the Saints, and Tom Casale will be on in about 11 minutes. So we got to get rolling. Gabe, let me pick your brain this weekend before we go forward. Some big games this weekend. Obviously, week 1, some interesting matchups. Clemson and Georgia. I like the Notre Dame Texas A&M game. Is going to be my most fun game to watch. Miami, is Florida going to get any better? How hot is that seat going to get in Gainesville? Penn State, West Virginia. Those are my top 4 games to watch. What are you looking for this weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to switching back and forth between Georgia, Clemson, and Penn State, West Virginia at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah.
I also think Billy Napier is going to be fired this season. I don't think he makes it through the year.
This week?
But in terms of LSU-USC, I think we see the Tigers get their first opening week victory since 2019. I think they're going to win. I have them winning by a touchdown or so. I think it'll be a really testy game. I have them covering the spread, which 4.5, depending on where you get it. I think it'll be a really.
These are DraftKings numbers, by the way.
Yeah. It'll be really testy early. I think we're going to see both teams kind of ease into it with young starting quarterbacks, young being a relative term, synonymous with inexperienced in this sense.
Yeah.
But I really like LSU. I think the offensive line and the running game will give them that edge. I think their offensive line is the best unit on either team that's going to be on the field on Sunday night, rather. But my favorite pick from this game, surprisingly, is the under. I like under 64
I
points.
also like the under. I think LSU's defense is going to show right off the bat that they're better.
I think both defenses will.
Obviously, and all the USC people that I read, and I've gone and read some, they all think their defense is better. But you look at those numbers from last year, out of 133 teams, LSU was ranked 108th, USC 119th. They were worse than LSU. And that's pretty bad. So, but those offenses, granted, you got to take both of these numbers with a grain of salt. All you have in week one is last year's numbers. The LSU Tigers will not be first in the nation in offense this year again. That's not going to happen, and USC won't be in the top 10 either. So I like your that number. When I first looked at it, it seemed kind of low, and then I started digging through some things. And I'm like, you know what, that's about right. So I'm not going to give my pick on LSU, but I agree with pretty much what you said there. Also, a little nugget for you before I let you go. Look at all these ABC games. It kind of tells you a little bit about how the Disney world has taken over college football. That could be good or bad. I don't necessarily like it, but
did you see they released the theme song this morning for the SEC on ABC?
No, but I'm not really happy about it, to be honest.
It's a spin on the 90s and 2000s college football on ESPN song. I really like the graphics package. I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff.
I like that stuff too, but I haven't watched it, but I will. I just think it's kind of distress. I don't want to say distressing. I guess it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but the fact that ABC and ESPN, they were already kind of taking over the college football world anyway. Now it's basically, I mean, there's no CBS on here. Though I know that CBS has a game, the 11 o'clock game. I don't even know who they're playing, but Navy's on there. I don't even know who the 2:30 game is, some like meaningless Big Ten game.
True sickos like me will tune into that game.
Well, I won't. So, but whatever. All right,
one more note before I go.
Go ahead.
I've got LSU-USC player props coming out tomorrow on bet.nola.com.
Oh,
so
okay.
Be sure to check those out.
We will check those out. So there you go. Bet.nola.com, LSU props. Also, I'm going to be writing my weekly NFL picks on bet.nola.com beginning next week, as well as my Saints trends column. So many reasons to go. We will talk to you. I guess I won't see you on screen again until I'll see you again, but the people won't until Monday. So have a happy
Monday. We're off Monday.
Oh, that's right, Monday. So next Wednesday.
Yep.
So anyway, happy birthday weekend.
Thank you.
When you're in your 20s, it's a whole weekend. It's not just one day. When you get to be my age, you try to forget about it. So enjoy it.
Thanks.
See you again. All right, real quick. Tom is in the green room, so I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time talking about the Saints, but we never really got to talk about the 53-man roster. I don't think there were really any surprises. I know some people were talking about Jonathan Abram. They were surprised about that, but guess what? Nobody claimed him. In fact, to my knowledge, as far as I can see, there isn't a single Saint that was cut that was claimed by anyone. So if you're super surprised by anyone, you can go ahead and give me your comment if you want. But I don't see how anyone could be surprised because no other NFL teams were surprised. Charlie Smith made it through. In fact, the Saints, not only did they put him on the practice squad, but they didn't even use the exemption. So they want to be able to call him up. There you go, Blake Grupe. There's your notice. They're not going to waste any time if Blake Grupe misses any kicks. And I'll tell you, even if he makes them, he needs to watch out because the reason why they put Charlie Smith on the non-exempt list and counted him as one of the 16 when they didn't have to is so they can call him up whenever they want. And if if this dude keeps improving like he's been improving, I think you're going to see him on the 53-man, sooner than later. Also on the practice squad that's notable, Equinemius St. Brown, not a surprise. We talked about that the last couple of weeks. I thought he would make the team, but it doesn't surprise me that he didn't. Just because he's on the practice squad, I promise you he will be active for many a game this year. Some people were surprised about offensive lineman Kyle Hergel, Shane Lemieux, the backup center. Who's the backup center right now? Cesar Ruiz moving over? Probably. And Josiah Aziram, that's not a surprise either. He's got to continue to improve. At some point, I think he has a good chance to make this team. Was anybody surprised about Lou Headley? Gabe says a friend got mad. He drafted Headley, and who the hell has a punter in fantasy football? That's sicko. That's sicko. If you're playing punters in fantasy football, you're a sicko. Okay, call the hotline. You need help. Amadi is, some people were complaining about Jacob Caboti. He was never going to make this team. He made it to the practice squad. So anyway, we talked about the trade the Saints have made they give a 6th round pick to Washington. They also get a 7th round pick back and defensive lineman John Ridgeway. Basically, what this says to me is Colin Saunders not only is he not ready for week 1, but he's going to be a candidate for the injured list. That's my opinion. I don't think he's going to be ready anytime soon. You don't make a trade. You don't bring in a guy for depth purposes, which is what that is, unless you don't think you're going to get Colin Saunders back. Big Show, and you're right. We're not the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't make necessary moves. They haven't right now. And then we talked about Kene Nwanwu, the return specialist. He's also a good defender on special teams, so he will do that. But again, with these new kickoff rules, and he will get more chances to return kicks, there will be fewer touchbacks. However, what does that mean as far as are there going to be any hole? It's going to be more like what a running back would see when you're returning the ball now. I think that it will be. Will he be as successful as he was? Because look, 68 career returns, 27.6 yard average. 3 special teams, 3 return touchdowns. It's actually pretty good. 68 returns and you got 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good. The dude's got speed. Go check him out on X. You can find his highlights pretty easily. They're there. So yeah, that's what we got on the Saints this morning. They have shifted their focus now. I think everyone has seen that. They're practicing. They're getting ready for the Carolina Panthers. Lines dropped all the way to 4. It was as high as 5.5 at one point. It's down to 4. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it goes to 3.5. I don't think it'll go any lower than that. I don't think it will cross the 3.5 threshold. We'll talk more about that next week. But say that is, for those of you thinking, we all think it's a must win, right? But for those of you who think it's going to be a cakewalk, it's not. I've said this multiple times already. It would not surprise me at all if the Panthers won this game. Now, the reason why I do like it for the Saints playing this in game 1 is because they are going to have a lot to get together under their new coach, Dave Canales, and who I think is going to be a great coach. He was a phenomenal OC. We'll see if that translates into head coach. Can he get Bryce Young fixed? We'll see. Is their offense that much better? I'm not sure, but I think Bryce Young will be better. So I like that they're playing them in the first game because they're going to have. It is going to take some time to gel. But look, that's no sure thing. Saints lose that game. Got an email this morning about. Let's see where here it is. All right, so Dennis Allen. I know how much you all love Dennis Allen, but he did not open as the first coach to be fired. July 17th, when the odds came out, sportsbetting.ag had listed Dennis Allen as plus 700 odds. He was behind Robert Saleh at plus 500 and Mike McCarthy plus 600. However, there have been multiple big sharp bets, and I'm talking about big money apparently, that have bet on Dennis Allen. And why? Because of the schedule. And so now, how about this? Allen is the clear favorite to be the first coach fired, plus 275. That is insane. Plus 275. Big Sean says that the Carolina game seems trappy. Could be. Bryant is going to come down a late field goal by grouping. Could be. Anyway, we talked about Lattimore coming back to practice. That is really good news. They're trying to beat down my prediction of either Lattimore or Kamara will not play in game 1. Starting to look like I'm going to be wrong. We'll see. Still got a week to go. We talked about the trades, the pickups, and we talked about the practice squad. Again, more on the Saints. We will talk with Larry Holder tomorrow morning as we before we get to our NFC North previews. All right, I'm going to get to Tom Casale in just a second, but before we do that, and we're going to talk college football, LSU, Tulane, and our games to watch for the weekend. Before we do that, let me tell you a bit more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary evaluation of your company, if you decide to proceed, our native New Orleanian experts, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. No matter whether your birthday is today, next week, next month, or on Mardi Gras Day, the great people at Evangeline can help you get the present of a lifetime. Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt, they've made Evangeline Securities the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication to success. They are fully licensed, ready to serve you. So get in touch with Evangeline Securities about what is really important. You know what it is. It's the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. Time to bring in the expert, the man who's been scouring through all of this week one. I know you probably watched week 0 from start to finish. Before we get started, Tom, I found something. You had a tweet a week or two ago that it was my favorite tweet of the week, and I ended up talking about it on the show. You probably didn't see it, but the talk about what is it, October? What is it? What day it is?
October 12th.
Okay, October 12th, which is a big day of college football, and you talked about how it is one of the top 5 wedding dates of 2024. You said you wouldn't even go to your own wedding on October the 12th. I love that tweet.
Yeah.
Did your wife hear about this, by the way?
She knows I'm not a fall wedding person. I'm against it. Been against it for years for obvious reasons. Since we've been together 16 years, early on when I was still trying to impress her, I went to 2 fall weddings on a Saturday, and that was it. They rained both times. And I'm in the Northeast, so fall wedding.
You had the shakes the whole time too, didn't you?
And I guess it matters where you live. Like, I guess a fall wedding in Las Vegas or Baton Rouge is different than where I am. But people are trying to do like November weddings in the Northeast. It's insanity.
Yeah, I told the story that same time. My best friend, I was the best man in his wedding. He got married literally during the Bluegrass Miracle, and I wanted to kill him. Yeah. And the funny thing is, he got LSU season tickets, and he's been an LSU fan since we were kids. So just anyway, real quick breaking news: Steph Curry signs a 1-year, $62.6 million extension through 2027. I mean, what is this world coming to? Thank you, Malcolm. I appreciate the sentiment. All right, Tom, let's get to this weekend. I want to talk about LSU-USC first. LSU, this number has been dropping. It was as high, I think, as 6 at some places. The money is on USC so far. Why? First, before you tell me maybe what you think, why do you think this number has dropped from 6 to 4 as LSU is a favorite Sunday night in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it actually was up to 6.5. I got USC a while ago at 6.5. I thought that was a really bad number. Almost mirror images of each other, these two teams.
You see those stats.
When you look at a neutral field, I thought they didn't place a good number at 6.5. I thought it should be more around 5. Now it's dipped below the point to where I think the value could be on LSU. I think once they name Miller Moss the starting quarterback at USC, that kind of solidified. They'll have a guy that's played there a little bit, and again, I just think laying a touchdown in that game. Like, I know LSU is an SEC team, but you got a lot of question marks on both sides. So I think people found value and then what happens now, Jim, is it's different from when you and I were younger. When money starts to come in on a side, everybody on social media sees it, right? And they think, oh, they know something. They know something, right? It's not always the case. It's that sometimes sharps are waiting for information, maybe like the starting quarterback just to be confirmed. Then they take a side. And then I think you see a lot of people follow that, and it brings the number down even more. I would expect, though, LSU to start moving back up as we get to Sunday.
I agree with you. And it's kind of like I hate to use this analogy, but it's a lot like crypto. I mean, if anybody who's into crypto, there's not a lot of whole like even days in crypto. You'll see it like if it starts going up, then all of a sudden it just shoots up out of nowhere. And conversely, there was a day just a couple of days ago where it took off, went straight down, and people are jumping off the train. And they do the same in the betting world now. They say if some sharp who they think knows what he's talking about, if he puts out there that he took LSU or USC at +6, the next thing you know, it drops a point in an hour because they think he knows. If he's betting against LSU, then it's got to be right.
Yeah,
we see that all the time. Let me ask you this: does this play any factor into the world of betting when you talk about LSU? It's well known they've lost 4 straight openers. The last one they won was the national championship of 2019. Does that play any role into thinking about how you want to look at this game?
The only thing that kind of gives me a little is coaching. Sometimes coaches, I always use the example of Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin was a pretty good regular season coach. Tom Coughlin was an excellent postseason coach. He should go around the country and speak to how he would get his team prepared for the postseason. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit to the coaching aspect of it. How do you get your team prepared for week 1? So I think you can look at that. I also think if you look at LSU, then you start dinging them for playing tough games. You know what I mean? Like they opened against Florida State twice. So right. It's not like they're opening against Nicholls State a lot. So I also think you got to look at that. For 6 quarters, they played Florida State even. The second half of last year's game, Florida State kind of pulled away. So those games could have gone differently if a couple of plays had gone LSU's way.
What about, an interesting note about all this is, people make such a big deal about them losing 4 openers in a row, and it is kind of concerning. But here's something I didn't know because I went back in history to see what did they do before that? Has this been a bugaboo for LSU for a long time or not? Well, before they lost 4 in a row in the openers, they had won 16 out of 17. So, and they were a lot of them, some of them were against some cupcakes, but for the most part, they beat Wisconsin in there. I think they had a few SEC games even in there, but they weren't all against cupcakes. They were some against Big 12 teams. So to win 16 out of 17, nobody was really talking a whole lot about that. It's when you lose them that it's a big deal.
Yeah. And again, I think if you look at the last two games, have been really tough games against a really good opponent. One that went unbeaten in the regular season last year. So I'll be honest with you. If I was running a program, there's no way I would do what Florida State did. Start off week 0 against a really good Georgia Tech team in Ireland. Because with the transfer portal now, it's all different. You're bringing in a bunch of guys. Like I think Florida State's going to be fine in the long run, but you knew that they could be going into a trap there just because they had to replace so many key players from last year. I kind of like what Michigan is doing. Michigan's playing Fresno State before Texas. It's just going to be hard to open the season up with these big games just now with all the constant turnover from year to year.
Dattitude podcast is Thursday morning, presented by Evangeline Securities, here with Tom Casale, who's the director of bet.nola.com. And what's your thoughts on this game? I know you said you got USC early at +6.5. Is there any value on playing both sides here? Do you now take LSU at -4 and kind of hope it lands in the middle? You got both the 5 and the 6 to be able to win. 4 would be a push on one end. Do you think about doing that at all?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to see if it dropped down to 3.5. I don't think it will. The other thing I'm thinking of too, and one of the reasons why I took the USC 6.5 is I'm somebody early in the season who puts a huge emphasis on the lines. I think that, when you're replacing 5 offensive linemen, 4 offensive linemen, it takes those guys some time. LSU has my number 2 offensive line in college
Yeah,
football.
my number 1.
Yeah, I gave Texas just slightly above them. It could go either way for me. But here's the thing. I think both teams, you got the stats up here, Jim, were terrible on defense. They both hired 2 really good coaches to fix the defense.
Yep.
I think they will get fixed. Maybe not in week 1, right? It's going to take a little time throughout the season. I think they'll both be better on defense. You look at the offenses. LSU probably not going to finish first. They'll be a top 10, 15 offense probably. USC be around top 10 like they always are. The difference to me in this game is up front. And I think that's where LSU is going to win the game. What happened last year to Florida State, I think it's going to be the opposite this year. Yeah. So I'm looking to hit LSU second half. I think that line starts to wear them down. Listen, USC's got a great coordinator, but they still don't have a bunch of horses up front. That's the area where they're trying to get better for the Big Ten. I think it's going to take another recruiting cycle, another transfer cycle. They got some good players, but they're not deep. And I think LSU starts to wear on them as the game goes. So that's what my strategy was coming into the game. Take the high number with USC. It'll be close at halftime, I think. Then take an LSU second half bet.
That's a great analysis. I really like that play. I think that's a great way to look at it. This is a game that I probably wouldn't touch. I do like LSU -4, but I don't like it enough to play it, I don't think. And I think the way that you're going to attack it, because I do think you could be talking about a game where that's tied at the half, or even maybe USC leads at the half. And like you said, LSU wears them down. Because I actually think the defensive front is better than it's been too. Harold Perkins is probably going to get back to his wrecking havoc self, and I look for him to have a big game on Sunday night. Sunday night, 6:30 on ABC. Those numbers, man, they just jump out at you. The offense versus defense. But Gabe likes the under, and I do as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're getting a number that's based off last year.
Yeah,
that's the thing early in the season is projections, and I heard you talking about the Saints game. Most Saints fans are probably looking at last year's Carolina team. Well, it's not going to be last year's Carolina team. Are they going to be great? Probably not. But I agree with you. I think they'll be better. So when you look at these numbers, we don't know what they're going to. I do think both teams will be better defensively. They won't be quite as good offensively. I mean, they're both losing Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks.
Yeah.
LSU, I mean, here's how bad LSU's defense is. They lost a Heisman Trophy quarterback and 2 first-round receivers, and everybody's talking about the defense. The offense will be fine. I mean, in most years, you would be worried about the offense. So, yeah, the number's a little high for me. I think these first games, it just takes a little while. And the defenses, especially when you got a lot of changes. And USC and LSU have a lot of changes. And again, the one constant for LSU is that line. And I think whatever they try to do early in the game, I think at some point they say, you know what, let's just line up and mash them.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of a lot of changes, Giovanni says, roll wave. Let's talk about Tulane real quick, because if we were doing our picks segment this week, we're going to start it next Thursday, where Tom will come on every Thursday. Also, Uncle Big Nick will come on. We'll have a little mini competition between us 3. Gabe will also give us a pick of the week. But if we were doing our 5 picks, it's going to be 5 points for your best pick, 4 points, and so on, all the way down to 1. My number 5 pick would be Southeastern Louisiana tonight, plus 27.5 over the Wave. Now, I think the Wave will win, but here's my deal with Tulane, and I think it's going to take them a little while to figure out. I love Coach John Summerall. I think that's a great hire for Tulane, and I think that eventually Tulane is going to be very good down the stretch. I think they're going to improve as the season goes along, and I actually like they have it's plus 1,000 to make the playoff. I think that's a great value, because I think with their easy schedule, they have a legitimate chance to go undefeated, which would put them in that playoff. But tonight, one thing that worries me about this Tulane team is they have a 3-headed monster at quarterback. It was a 2-headed monster. Now it's 3. Talking about Ty Thompson, Kai Horton, Darian Mensah. And as they go into the game tonight, I'm not sure John Summerall knows who number 1 is. And he's already said there's a really good chance that all 3 will play. Well, we always say when you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. Does that mean when you got 3 quarterbacks, you got less than none?
I agree. The 3 things I look at when you're looking at week 1 and 2 are the offensive lines. I mean, are you replacing 4 or 5 starters?
Which Tulane is.
The coach, right? Like I've been talking about Alabama a lot the last couple of months. I think Alabama is still going to be really good, but man, they lost Nick Saban. Like, they didn't lose a guy.
Exactly.
They lost the guy.
Right.
And you're telling me they're going to be just as good? I can't buy that. And Tulane also loses a very good coach. And I just think it takes a little time. It just takes time for the coach to really understand his personnel in games sometimes. But the other thing that you said that really, really sticks out to me, because I was researching Cal last night against UC Davis. Cal's got the same problem. They got 3 quarterbacks. Okay, I don't like that. You're a 20.5-point favorite. You don't know who your quarterback is. So very similar to this game. It's not that they're not much better and they're going to win pretty easy, but when you don't know who your quarterback is for week 1, there's not a coach in America who would tell you that they wouldn't rather have a guy that they knew was going to start week 1. So that always concerns me when I see that.
I agree wholeheartedly. And so, look, I think Tulane wins the game, and I think they probably win going away at the end. But I think 4 touchdowns is a whole lot. And I get that it's 27.5, and people see that. And automatically, when they see a number that's right below that 4 touchdown threshold, they want to jump on Tulane. Oh, they're getting that hook. When you get to 27.5, I don't care about hooks. They're weird scores. The chances of it landed right on 28 is slim to none. So, I mean, I just think that, look, Southeastern's always a team that's going to give other teams fights. And I think this is a case tonight, especially you're talking about 2 teams that are in the same backyard. So they're going to Southeastern.
Yeah, that's their Super Bowl. This is
exactly.
That's why I was actually looking at UC Davis Cal, because that's UC Davis's Super Bowl, right? They're playing Cal. This is very similar. You know how jacked up these kids are going to be to play this game.
Absolutely. So anyway, I like Southeastern with the points. That'd be one of my plays of the week. Now, I got 4 games on the screen here on the left. These are my 4 best games to watch. And 2 of them are fairly close point spread wise, but out of these 4, which one are you looking forward to most, Tom?
Texas A&M is my favorite play of the week. I got them at -115 on the money line before the line moved, and here's why. Notre Dame, their strength last year was offensive line. They lose 3 key offensive linemen, including Joe Alt, and to make matters worse, the kid who was going to replace Joe Alt got hurt in early August and is out for the season. Now you're going up against a top 5 to 10 defensive line in the country in A&M. And I think that's where the game is going to be won at home too. In my opinion, Notre Dame's a little bit overvalued entering the season. I think they're a good football team, but going on the road to an SEC team with issues on the offensive line, they're going to start 2 freshmen, in A&M against a devastating defensive line. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think A&M's defense is going to be too much for them.
That's a game because of the things what you said there. I actually like the under in that game. 46 seems a bit high because you talk about what I don't think Texas A&M's offense. I worry about their coaching situation. You talked, it's about basically similar to John Summerall, just on a bigger level, right? And they've had a lot of turnover as well, but their defense is really good. But I think Notre Dame's defense isn't bad either.
It's good.
So I really like the under 46 in that game.
Yeah, no, I expect it to be one of those low-scoring slugfests. I do think the one reason I like A&M is because I think that the talent is there. That Jimbo Fisher has just did an awful job the last couple of years. And that's where Notre Dame struggles. Yeah. Notre Dame recruits well for Notre Dame. They're a good, solid football team. But sometimes when they play these guys who have real, these NFL big linemen, that's where they can struggle a little bit. And I think that's where A&M's going to get them.
Real quick, what's your take on Georgia Clemson? I think that Georgia always has something to prove early on. And you're talking about backyard rivalry games. If they get a chance to beat the snot out of Clemson, I think they're going to.
Yeah, I lean Georgia here. It just feels like, man, they're begging for Clemson money. They're dying for you to take Clemson. Making them a 2-touchdown dog. Yeah. This is in Dabo's wheelhouse. He loves motivating his guys. They're 2-touchdown underdogs. I can see Clemson staying in this game for a while, but too much Georgia. And like you said, I still think they have a sour taste in their mouth from last year being left out of the
absolutely.
playoffs. And I think they're going to come out hot.
So do I. And then I got to if I'm going to take one, I don't know that I play this or not, but I got to think Miami, it's just going to be a really bad year for Florida. I think everybody, would be surprised if Billy Napier makes it through the season. I think that Miami continues their road of improvement. I think this is a low number, and I really like Miami to win this game, I think by maybe double digits.
Yeah, see, this one I disagree with you on. I actually don't think Miami should be like a 3-point favorite on the road yet.
Okay.
And I like Miami to win the ACC. I like the team. I just think it's too early for me. And I'm not quite as sold on – I think they were a couple plays away last year from winning 8 games. They lost some close games, and I do think that was coaching towards the end. But I think they have more talent than their record indicated last year. So this is one of those games I can't wait to watch, because it's going to set me up for the rest of the year on these two teams. But I am high on Miami overall.
Okay, and Gabe, by the way, says Miami to make the college football playoff is one of his favorite bets of the year. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but I could see it. I can't, man, I'll tell you what. I have always been a bigger fan of the NFL than I have been of college football. But this 12-team playoff, it's got somebody like me more fired up. I am definitely going to pay more attention this year than I have. And lastly on this list, Penn State, West Virginia. Look, I'm always nervous. I think Penn State seems to do better in like games. It's like rivalry type games. I'm not sure that playing West Virginia is that going to super fire them up. That seems like a lot of points on the road at 11 a.m. in week 1.
Yeah, and I will say this: like, if you're going to bet teams to make the college football playoffs, like Gabe should bet Miami to win the ACC, because that's their only path. I'm telling you, there are going to be 5 SEC teams, there are going to be 3 Big Ten teams, there are going to be 2 champions. That's 10 teams right there. So I do think there's some value betting the team to win the conference instead of just making the playoffs. In this game, I actually took back in April, I took West Virginia to win the Big 12 at 19-1. I thought the number was a little off. I do like them, but similar to 10.5, where this number was last week, and then you saw the money coming in on West Virginia, made sense to me because I thought 10.5 was too high. My worry here is similar to the LSU game. Does Penn State, especially on the defensive front, just have too many horses as the game goes on? This is one where I think if you're looking to bet it, I would look at West Virginia, maybe a first half bet. I think it's a very close game for a half. Just worry about Penn State's got 2 great running backs. Their offensive line is experienced. At some point, does that running game and defensive front take over?
Any other thing that's not on here before we let you go this morning? Is there anything that's not on this list that you're looking for? Maybe a play that your value play of the week?
The only other game I would take a look at, and I know some people are going to say, geez, that's a big number with this team, but I'm very high on Nebraska this year. They return a top 15 defense. They finally got a quarterback that can make a forward pass. But the reason I like it is UTEP is the only team in the country who's replacing its starting quarterback, its starting running back, their 3 top receivers, and their entire offensive line. They also lost their best defensive player. He's now with the Seahawks. So you're talking about a team that's got a new head coach who's basically starting over from scratch, and they're trying to do what Texas State did last year by just bringing in a whole new team of transfers. Now, it worked for Texas State. I don't know if that is going to work for everyone. It didn't work for Deion. I know that. So I just think Nebraska at home in Matt Rule's second season, they're going to be a tough team, and I think they make a statement against UTEP.
I like it. Look, we can get fired up. We can we can put ourselves in the recliner, the lazy boy, and start it out. Well, it's 11 a.m. here. It's noon where you are, but we get started early, and the next thing you know, it's midnight. And holy crap, what the hell happened today?
Looking forward to it.
Me too. And Tom, looking forward to us having this show every Thursday. We're gonna have. It's meant to have a lot of fun, but also at the same time, anybody who's watched the show the past 20 minutes obviously knows there's a lot of research that goes into it, and that's what Tom does for a living, and he knows what he's talking about. And I appreciate what you're going to bring to us over the course of the next 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. I can't wait for next week. I'm excited. College, NFL, let's get it going.
Let's get it going. We'll see you next Thursday.
Take care, Jim.
All right, you too. Tom Casale, everybody, and I'm telling you right now, not just saying it. I mean, he has been doing this for a long time. He's been doing the analyst game for a lot longer than I have. And I mean, I'm not doing it as much anymore because the show is my sole job. So I don't have quite as much time as I had to analyze and go through every number like I've gone through before. And I still will, though, especially the NFL is my specialty. I will spend more time researching the NFL than I will anything else. And that's what I'll spend Tuesdays doing when we don't have a show. But Tom Casale, and I'm telling you, again, tell your friends. I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to promote the show. I'm telling you out there, if you listen to Tom Casale throughout the year on Thursdays, he goes in depth and tells you why something's a value play or what he did. He explained to you about Southern Cal and why Southern Cal, he liked it at 6.5, and maybe you play both sides of the fence from betting purposes. Not just, and we're going to preview LSU games and we're going to preview Tulane games as we go forward through the season. We're going to do that mostly on Thursdays. We'll do it somewhat on Fridays. We may even talk about it some on Wednesdays, especially on days that I'm alone. But on Thursdays, when we're doing the handicapping part of this, Tom can go inside the numbers and tell you why something's a good play or maybe give you insight. Because even if you don't bet, and look, when I was growing up, and I'm sure a lot of you were the same way, I always wanted to know what the line was. I want to know what the spread was. I want to understand why it was that. So even if you don't bet and you're trying to get insight on a game, Tom can help you do that. Again, you don't have to be a bettor to enjoy the Thursday show. And again, in my monologue, we'll probably talk Saints, but be a lot of both on Thursdays because I will be picking NFL games. Tom's going to be picking probably a little bit of both. And Uncle Big Nick, when he comes on, he's going to do straight college. And let me tell you, another one who spends his whole week doing analyzing stuff. And then Gabe with his pick of the week. Gabe won the contest last year that we had on our Bayou Bets show. So he'll be giving you picks. Anyway, I tell you what, I'd be willing to make you a bet. We're all going to be over 500. We have been in the past. We've had years where we were. It's going to be another good year for us. Okay, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. Again, the way the weeks are going to work here, if you're a regular or if you're not and you want to come back, Mondays are me by myself, kind of going, recapping what happened in the Saints game the day before with our clips from Dennis Allen, and we're going to keep it positive, brother. Some days we won't keep it positive. It is what it is. Look, I hope these dudes keep it as positive as possible. So we'll recap what we saw on Sunday. We will probably have a brief recap of LSU, Tulane, Mondays with Gabe. Maybe we'll do that segment with Gabe when we recap LSU with Tulane or Tulane. But that's what Mondays are going to be. Wednesdays will be kind of we're going to try to look at the opponent. We're talking about, and when I say opponent for the Saints. So I'm going to work on getting someone who covers the teams that the Saints are playing that week. That's what we're going to try to do on Wednesday. And then also to be Wednesday monologue. We may or may not have guests on Wednesday. And maybe some Wednesdays we have a guest, some we don't. You know what Thursday is going to be. We told you it's going to be a picket show. But it's also going to be insight, and then I'll have a monologue before all that, talking about whatever the news of the day is. And then on Fridays, Larry Holder, do what we always do. We will preview the upcoming Saints game, and we will give you our top plays in the NFL for that week. I will present him with the 4 games to watch probably, and he'll tell you who he likes. So that's just like we did last year. We're going to have fun with it. And also, lastly, can't do this without you. Big Sean says 17-0 is his hope. You know what, Big Sean? Mine too. Saints go 17-0. We're going to have a lot of fun on this show. I don't know what I mean, some of you won't know how to handle anything because I'll be there. You Derry Downer won't be here. If they go 17-0, there won't be any Derry Downer. Some of you, though, they can go 17-0 and you still want Dennis Allen fired. Am I right? No. We'll see. All right. We're going to take Monday off. It's Labor Day. So you know what we're going to do next Wednesday, which is what? I don't know what day that is. That's the 4th. I think it's the 4th. So the 4th, we're going to have Larry Holder on to do our NFC South preview. But I will probably have a bit of an extended monologue with just you and me talking next Wednesday before we get to Larry. So I'll tell him to come on a little later. And then next Thursday, our first betting show on the 5th. And then next Friday, we will have our first NFL preview show, Saints preview, as they take on the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, going forward, except starting next Wednesday, every weekday except Tuesday, live at 11 a.m., also after the fact, wherever you get your podcast. Reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page and click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. You can also find a replay of the show, as always, on YouTube, on Facebook, on regular podcast places, and also on NOLA.com/sports. I want to thank Tom Casale, bet.nola.com. Check out all the work that Tom does there. Gabe, the next birthday boy. After today, mine's going to be done. Gabe's is coming up on Saturday. We will be back here tomorrow. Larry Holder, NFC North. We'll see you then. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.